people will get transported through this journey through Apu's eyes, which meant that he had to be ready for everything, and him being him, he would always say yes for everything. See, I think for both of us, the common factor is the love of land and the language.
Amog, what a shabda.
So we have the highest number of elephants and tigers anywhere in the world, and we need to celebrate all these things. This was actually like, two friends being out in the wild, and a lot of times we didn't know whether the camera was rolling or not.
Karnataka is Gandhada Gudi. On October 28th, one of its favorite child, Puneeth Rajkumar, is set to celebrate the rich biodiversity of the state. Gandhada Gudi, the docudrama, is set to release in a grand manner, and I am here to talk with National Award-winning filmmaker Amoghavarsha, who travelled with this hero of Sandalwood into the famed wildlife of Karnataka. Hello Amog, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
So when I first spoke to you, Amog, you had told me that Puneeth Rajkumar had a dream, and that was about Gandhada Gudi should be spoken about in the entire country. So was that the starting point of this project?
See, I think for both of us, the common factor is the love of land and the language. We're both very passionate about our state and people, the culture, everything here. So when we kind of started on this project, the crucial thing for us was that we have the highest number of elephants and tigers anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And we need to celebrate all these things. And I think this is something that the world also needs to know, that we have done a phenomenal job in taking care of all of these things. So I think somewhere it stems from a point of pride, that we need to take pride in the culture we have of coexistence and all of these things, and that's kind of the starting point.
Right. Let me take you back 50 years when Dr. Rajkumar starred in this classic called as Gandhada Gudi, right? How did that movie shape your passion for this genre and for this field of wildlife filming and wildlife photography?
See, 50 years ago, when Dr. Rajkumar did the film Gandhada Gudi, the first ever one. This was the first ever film in the country about conservation of forest department.
Yeah.
I'm talking 50 years ago.
Yeah.
We've only heard climate change, conservation in the last 10-20 years.
Right.
So we were far ahead in terms of where we were in the thought process. And to all of us, when we were kids, the first time we saw anything wild, was an elephant or something, was on the screen with this film.
Correct.
So I felt not just does our land and Dr. Rajkumar's family, we all have the love of land, but there's also legacy of all of these things. So I think that's a massive inspiration for all of us.
So you're on the back of Wild Karnataka. It won you a lot of acclaim, including the national award.
This is Wild Karnataka.
That film also spoke about the biodiversity and also the habitat of Karnataka. So I want to know how Gandhada Gudi is different from Wild Karnataka.
See, this is a completely different film. It's a film which is a very unique format. I have not seen a film of this format because it's shot in cinema style. It's got songs, it's got music, but at the same time, everything you see is real. So it's a very unique experience, and people we feel will have an experience more than just watching a film, musically and with visuals. And I think people will get transported through this journey through Apu's eyes and see our land and this Gandhada Gudi, and it's meant to be a experience which takes you on a journey.
So this is a docudrama, a genre that is quite less explored in the Indian film industry, right? So when a star like Puneeth Rajkumar associates in such a movie, how does it help in helping the genre surviving and even kind of reveling in a mainstream space?
See, any content for that matter without a face is still very hard for people to palate. Pure natural history films we all love, but the audience for it is still limited. But with somebody like Apu, who has the love and affection of so many fans, and also is an extremely popular superstar, his personal journey will connect not just purely from a stardom point of view, but also from an emotional point of view.
ಇಷ್ಟು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಬೆಟ್ಟ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಮ ಊರ ಪಕ್ಕ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತೇ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ.
Because he's also a person who's very well connected with the audience and with his fans. So I think there is also that bit of connect, right? Because when you see people talking about something, you're not so disconnected from the whole natural history. If you see, in fact, one of the failures for natural history, pure natural history, is that it also disconnects us quite a bit. I mean, we've done films like that, and it has its place in terms of where it can move people and all of that, and I've done such films, but I also think there is limitation in that format.
Got it. Yeah, just to continue with the same question, I want to understand why haven't we seen a lot more serious, or how do we say, a professional approach towards this genre which we call the docudrama. Why don't we see more such attempts in India?
No, I think it's all starting, and Kannada film industry is leading in a lot of ways in experimenting and creating new kind of records and breaking new records. And I think definitely far ahead. But I also think that we as an audience and we as a country consume content very differently.
Okay.
We are a very musical, cinematic, kind of very emotive kind of audience, right? And I think even the world is changing. I think I'd like to call this man with wild, right? And also there is a lot of tapering down of the over the edge reality shows that people are not liking anymore as well.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that is more like, trivializing the genre, if you call it like.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the shows that I've refused to work on were very edgy like this, because I think that's not the right format, and I personally believe it does more harm than it does good. A lot of some of these formats. So this is actually a very Eastern perspective of looking at nature, and that is also another unique point in this film. It's a very Eastern viewpoint.
Right.
For us, wildlife or nature is not something very separate. It's not that we have a sanctuary separate and we are here. Exactly. We live with wildlife and snakes and birds very commonly throughout the state and throughout this country. So I think it's also a very, for me, it's very personally a big experiment, and something that I want to take pride in is that we've tried to show an Eastern perspective of things.
Right. Now talking about Puneeth Rajkumar, right? So we know that he's a sport and adventure lover. And considering the fact that this involved a lot of traveling, how did his adventure abilities help in this kind of a project?
No, I think most of these places where we've filmed and shot, they're extremely kind of, how do I say, remote, a lot of them. And one, you need to be extremely fit to be in these places. We had to hike a lot of places, you had to swim, we went diving, which meant that he had to be ready for everything, and him being him, he would always say yes for everything. So I never had a single moment where he would say no to anything, which I think is the greatest thing, working with somebody like him.
So, apart from the physical aspect of it, I want to talk about Puneeth Rajkumar, the personality, right? He is known for his humor, and he's always very enthusiastic. So I want to know about the rapport you shared with him, and how much did you enjoy as far as the project is concerned, because it seems like you both had great fun.
No, to be very honest, I was slightly skeptical when I started on this project, because taking such a big superstar into the wild is not a joke. Very minimum of facilities. There are places where we went, there was no electricity, no cell phone network, all of these things, and also safety precautions had to be taken well in advance. But I think, like you said, he was a sport, he was up for everything, right? So from day zero till we really finished the shoot, I never felt that we shot with such a big star.
No, the reason why I asked you was that in the trailer he asked you about, do you dance? So that comes out of nowhere, right? Because when you talk about docudrama, you expect a lot of seriousness involved in it.
So I think, see, it's a very organic project. It's not a project where we put a lot of rigid structure. See, typically, I mean, I've seen in my own career that the more rigidity you put to a project, you kind of reduce its ability. So this was actually like, two friends just being out in the wild. And a lot of times we didn't know whether the camera was rolling or not. That's how organic it was. So a lot of candid moments are there, a lot of things that were not prepared, a lot of things that were not, thought through, because nature has its own way of doing things.
So, when you talk about wildlife filming, there are a lot of challenges, right? Because you need to have immense concentration when you're filming the project, as well as there's a lot of danger involved in it. Could you talk about the challenges you faced while making Gandhada Gudi?
No, I think the biggest challenge was that such a big superstar to take him out into the wild. But thankfully, we traveled with a very small crew, which really helped. But I think we focused a lot on safety, rules and regulations, and he would say yes to everything. So I would say that, we're going into these places, these are the rules, this is how we need to prepare ourselves. It could be clothing to the color of shirt, you can't wear bright clothes, all of these things. So I think because of my experience of shooting these forests for the last 2 decades, and his just, ability to kind of do what it takes for the story. Really, I think we didn't have too many challenges. I think few places we got a lot of fans, and of course that was a bit of a challenge at times, but it was nothing that we couldn't work around.
So, in an interesting bit from the trailer that I picked up was the dancing frog, and which a lot of us might not even know about it. At least I don't know. So, I want to know that does Gandhada Gudi tell us what we don't know about the wildlife of Karnataka? Also, does it address the concerns revolving around the subject?
No, I think there are audiences that don't know anything about all of these things. Though, for example, you say about the dancing frogs. I mean, it's been there in quite a few short films and films, but the way we have addressed it, or the way this format is different, because one is looking at things that we know, but looking at things in a very different way. So I think there are things that, we have shown that are completely new, completely fresh, or we have shown things in a very new format, or with using new technology. So it's a mixture of those.
So finally, you would have wanted your main star with you when, as you're gearing up for this release, right? I want to know, what is it that you miss the most about Puneeth Rajkumar?
See, the good thing for us has been that Ashwini has been there from the first day of the shoot. Actually, I met her with Apu the first time I met. So from then to now, she's been a very integral part of this journey, this experience, and of course she's come on shoots as well. So in his absence, she's definitely filled in the shoes in a very, very magnanimous and grand way. But also I think, having said all of that, and that's the reason we're doing the film and completing it now and bringing it to theatres, I definitely miss him seeing how people are loving this, right? So I miss seeing him be part of this. And I think he had seen a rough cut, he'd seen the film to some degree, and he really liked it. But I think the amount of love this film is getting, and the trailer has got, I wish he was here to see this with us.
Thank you so much, Amog, for talking to Deccan Herald, and all the best for Gandhada Gudi.
Thanks, Vivek. Thank you.